I could have you arrested for breaking in here.
Carter, you've discovered the holy grail of modern medicine. Why the hell would you keep it buried like this?
I'll tell you why. Because there's far more money to be made in treating a disease than in curing it. Why cure someone of cancer in a day if we can treat them for a lifetime and bill them every step along the way?
What? That's insane.
Control for cancer is known, and it comes from nature. But it is not widely available to the public because it cannot be patented.
It is, of course, true that pharmacologists are producing a great many wonder drugs where the cure is almost worse than the disease.
The birth hour of the pharmaceutical industry is actually a deliberate decision by a handful of people on this side and on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean to define disease as a marketplace and build what has now become the largest investment industry upon that simple thought.
In 1901, John Dee established the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. The institute recruited Simon Flexner, a pathology professor at the University of Pennsylvania, to serve as its director. His brother, Abraham, was an educator who was contracted by the Carnegie Foundation to write a report on the state of the American medical education system. His study, the Flexner Report, along with the hundreds of millions of dollars that the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundations were to shower on medical research in the coming years, resulted in a sweeping overhaul of the American medical system.
The doctors from that point forward in history would be taught pharmaceutical drugs.
Naturopathic and homeopathic medicine, medical care focused on unpatentable, unmarketable natural remedies and cures, was now dismissed as quackery. Only drug-based allopathic medicine requiring expensive medical procedures and lengthy hospital stays was to be taken seriously.
The whole medical field has been skewed in the direction of pharmaceutical drugs which can be patented and produce great profits for the producers.
The oligarchy birthed entire medical industries from their own research centers and then sold their own products from their own petrochemical companies as the cure. The oligarchs' interest in the burgeoning pharmaceutical industry converged in companies like IG Farben, a drug and chemical cartel formed in Germany in the early 20th century.
I have to redefine history. Even if we talk about cancer today, we need to know those things. That these interests for expanding patented product markets worldwide, they were risking eventually, they were responsible for the death of 60 million people in World War II. And that shows you the dimension of the topic that we are talking about today. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that these interests will not do if the profit is high enough, then and now.
At its height, IG Farben was the largest chemical company in the world and the fourth largest industrial concern in the world, right behind Standard Oil of New Jersey.
Decision by the Nazis to exterminate the Jewish people was taken roughly 1 year after the decision of IG Farben to build this plant.
The company was broken up after World War II, but like Standard Oil, its various pieces remained intact, and today BASF, one of its chemical offshoots, remains the largest chemical company in the world, while Bayer and Sanofi, two of its pharmaceutical offshoots, are among the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world.
This one to Sanofi and GlaxoSmithKline, which are partnered on a project.
You see today around the pharmaceutical industry the tremendous profit, inability to eliminate diseases, propaganda war from that side that they are actually making progress in any disease from the fact that it's a business model, an investment industry that thrives on the continuation of existing diseases and the launching of new diseases. Mega death extermination camp was actually the decision by Bayer, Hoechst and BASF to build the largest industrial plant of wartime in Europe. It is called IG Auschwitz, a 100% subsidiary of Bayer, Hoechst and BASF. The Nazis used the death apparatus that was already existing because of the slave labor camp being in existence. At that time they were forming a cartel by the name of IG Farben. And that whole case lasted an entire year against 24 managers of these pharmaceutical and chemical companies. And it showed that they were largely financing the rise of the Nazis to power. They supplied 100% of the raw materials so that the Nazis could lead their war, 100% of the synthetic gasoline, rubber, 100% of the explosives. The report came to the conclusion, the US prosecutor said, without IG Farben, World War II would not have been possible.
It was Frank Howard, a Standard Oil of New Jersey executive, who would go on to persuade Alfred Sloan and Charles Kettering to donate their fortunes to the cancer center that would then bear their name. As director of research at Sloan Kettering, Howard appointed Cornelius Rhodes, a Rockefeller Institute pathologist, to develop his wartime research on mustard gas for the US Army into a new cancer therapy. Under Rhodes's leadership, nearly the entire program and staff of the Chemical War Service was reformed into the Sloan Kettering Drug Development Program, where they worked on converting mustard gas into chemotherapy.
July 5th, the new National Health Service starts, providing hospital and specialist services, medicines, drugs and appliances, care of the teeth and eyes, maternity services. Have you chosen your family doctor?
The reason they used the tax-exempt foundation was there were three primary reasons. One was to improve their public image. At the time that this was all happening, there was kind of a public distaste for these tycoons. I mean, they were viewed as being ruthless. They had too much money for their own good. They were viewed as cruel and nasty people, and there was a lot of envy. So they started a campaign to do philanthropy. They figured if you can give away money for public causes, and these causes are viewed as good, why then people will like you. And so they hired newspaper people and foundation people, and they planted a lot of stories, made sure the American public was well aware. Every time they donated a grant to a hospital or to a library or something like that, got a lot of publicity, got their name across the top of the door.
Do you know what your percentage on sales were, your profit on percentage on sales?
Yeah, it'd be something like 24%.
For the information of the people who are listening, that is an extraordinary profit level.
You've invested $10 billion in vaccinations over the last 2 decades, and you figured out the return on investment for that, and it kind of stunned me. Can you walk us through the math?
We feel there's been over a 20-to-1 return.
I think the numbers that you ran through were if you had put that money into an S&P 500 and reinvested the dividends, you'd come up with something like $17 billion, but you think it's $200 billion.
Here, yeah. You know, if you just look at the economic benefits, that's a pretty strong number compared to anything else.